What's up, guys? I have Furman Haynes from WorkHero on the podcast, and it's a little bit of a teaser. You'll find out what we're up to a few minutes into the podcast. Now, Furman and I are coming together to combine expertise, my expertise of in the field, what it's like to be a technician, my experience building a business, getting a van, insurance, and that journey, right? And his business expertise on the business development, financial side. And we're going to come together and create a project. Okay. And we'll tell you what that project is. But during this conversation, you get some ideas on the struggles of the common HVAC business owner starting out, maybe a couple of years in. There's a lot of pain points there. I had a series a couple of years ago. It started a couple of years ago called The Evolution of an HVAC Business. That was just me, but we're going to take this to another level, right? A teaser podcast. You're going to find out what this is all about, and you're going to learn a little bit about pain points of a business. So stay tuned, guys. There's going to be more to come, but this is Furman and I talking business. This is the HVAC Know-It-All podcast, and I'm your host, Gary McCreadie. Top contractors across the U.S. only. This one's going to be pretty cool to expand your marketing reach. Property.com is an exclusive network for certified pros. You can get your own custom Property.com webpage for free. You can also get AI-powered reputation management and get some great lead generation and prospecting tools. The Know Before You Go tool is pretty cool. It gives critical homeowner data like how much they've paid on past jobs. Join Property.com's exclusive network now to expand your reach with homeowners across the U.S. Use McCreadie.property.com, so that's MCCREADIE, property.com, to fill out the form to get approved. All right, Furman and I, we're going to announce something maybe in a bit on the podcast, but we're going to keep you hanging on and listen to us chat for a bit about some business stuff. Then we'll tell you sort of what we're going to do and what we're planning on doing over the next little while, which I think you guys are going to really enjoy, especially those that are business-minded, entrepreneurial-minded, maybe you own a business already, maybe you're on the fence of starting a business, maybe one day soon, or maybe one day in 5 years from now. So, Furman, let me ask you this. Okay. First of all, how you doing today, by the way? I should ask you that first. I should probably ask all my guests how they're doing.
It's good to see you. I was just in Toronto with you last week. I invited myself over to that basement, your famous dark basement where you record everything, but you wouldn't let me in.
If I turn the camera around, nobody wants to see what's back here. Listen, the reason you reached out to me initially was because I had a series. It was called Evolution of an HVAC Business that I ran for 2 years when I started McCreadie HVAC and Refrigeration Services. And I think you listened to a few episodes because I think that's why you first reached out to me. So just give me your thought on a podcast designed and geared, or a podcast series that's designed and geared for the business owner or the person that's thinking about getting into business in this trade.
There's a lot of content out there, right, already. Like a lot of podcasts and conferences and business coaches that's geared towards business owners, like at larger businesses. Probably when you're like already at 2 million, right? And they're trying to say take you from 2 to 10. And how do you like hire a CSR, and how do you know your numbers and implement the right bookkeeping system and other stuff. And that's great. Like it's good to see a lot of content out there focused on helping you scale your business from 2 to 10 million. But the thing that I loved about your series that you did, and that I feel like is missing, is the content and the conversation about, for the early business owners out there, the first time, the guy that's one truck who's like sitting in a parking lot at 11 p.m. and is trying to teach himself QuickBooks, or as you said, someone who hasn't even started their own business. Maybe you're a technician that's getting paid well and you're sitting there thinking, you feel that fear of like, should I be my own owner? And we started to talk about what it could be like to talk about lots of different legal topics, financial topics, marketing, things that matter to these guys when they're first getting started.
Yeah. So if you're a good technician, it doesn't mean that you're a good business owner. It does not mean you're a good business owner or even know how to be one. So the thing is, you have to teach yourself that, unless you've gone to business school and then you became a tech. But mostly it's the other way around. You go to trade school you learn the trade, and then you're like, you know what? I want to be my own business owner one day. And guys, this is a teaser episode to something bigger. So Furman and I, we're going to have a podcast series coming up on this, right? That's kind of the announcement. But I just want to keep you holding on here, because the things that Furman and I will talk about will be very inclusive to the business owner, to the wannabe business owner, and to how to structure. And it'll be ideas. It will be things that have failed, things that have worked. And one of the things that you're probably going to fail at a lot, and there's nothing wrong with failure. I coach soccer. I'm wearing a Canada soccer jersey right now, or shirt. And we tell kids all the time, failure is not a problem as long as you're learning from it. And you probably will fail when you go out. And I'm not saying drastically fail, but there's going to be days where you're going to have these little tiny failures. And these little tiny failures will be things that you're going to learn from that you didn't know previously. And every time you have this little failure, you're going to be that much stronger going forward. Do you agree with that statement?
Totally. And you said something really important, which is you have to teach yourself how to become a business owner. Like, you can't actually, there is no trade school for business. You can go get your MBA, right? But most guys don't have the time or the resources to do that. And so, yeah, what do you do when you're staring at like a software, like you're trying to implement House Call Pro for the first time, and you've never thought about, well, what should my invoicing workflow look like to make sure that my cash management is as efficient as possible? Or when your Google My Business page goes down, what do you actually do? How do you interact with Google? These are things this is part of the fun of being an entrepreneur, right? That's why I know we both consider ourselves entrepreneurs, and you would wake up every day and face all sorts of, crap that you have to deal with. But the challenge is on the business side. There's a lot that actually, just like there's a lot of good technical content, right, that you talk about on the troubleshooting side or diagnostics or whatever it is. We need to be talking more about even small things, right, that you can do to improve your business practices and topics. And that's what I'm really excited to. I feel like you're leaving the fans hanging here about the announcement. You like to?
Well, no, I kind of said that we're going to have this series coming up, and we'll get into more of that. But one of the things that I found, and I just want to give a couple of experiences myself, is like, okay, where do I start? And we're not deep diving into these topics today, people. So these are going to be topics of many podcast conversations to come with Furman and I, and guests that are business oriented guests. But it's like, where do you start? Right. And it starts with business knowledge, starts with the assets like vans and tools and all this kind of stuff, or one van at minimum. Right. So I didn't know where to start. I had to start researching that on my own time. So I was scouring all over the place for all this information, and trying to put the pieces together so it lined up with my ideas and my thoughts. So what Furman and Furman can talk about what he does, but you guys know what I do. I'm a technician. I'm a business owner. I love to make content. I'm into all that kind of stuff, running the podcast, being the host. But becoming a business owner, going from the tools to running a business, it was a difficult transition in certain aspects, not all. But Furman and I have a plan to put content together that's going to help you guys with all of that you can find it in one place. Hopefully, over the course of time, we've built up enough podcast conversations, newsletter information, talk to the right people, and it's all going to kind of funnel down into a linear knowledge for you guys on the business side. So Furman, introduce yourself and your company, so the audience knows, like, as we speak and as we go forward in this series, who you are and where you came from and your background and what WorkHero was and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this series that we're going to do is, like, you know this industry really well. I'm relatively new to the industry. I've only been working in the industry for 2 years. I'm not a contractor, but I have business operations and technology and financial experience. And I think the two of us together are going to be able to really, as you said, give a lot of young business owners like that playbook My background, I mean, I always like to say I grew up in Tennessee to a family of bad engineers and one good electrician. And I think if I had tried to pick up the tools, I would have, let's just say, I'd be on the unlucky side of the family. But I've always been an entrepreneur and love to build things. And about 2 years ago, I started to spend a lot of time in the HVAC industry. I, was doing ride-alongs and spent a lot of time at one local Johnstone Supply up in Massachusetts when I was still living there. And actually, I'll credit, I went to the symposium a couple of years, Brian, an HVAC school symposium, and like seeing those and just meeting like a bunch of guys who are craftsmen, right? I think there's this corner of the industry where they're more focused on doing, credit to Bill Spone and the rest of the group at Better HVAC, but they're more focused on doing a blower door test or getting the manual J correctly than they are on invoicing and collections and making sure you manage cash. And I was just struck by that. Like I was struck by the number of small business owners out there in this industry who just want to do right by their customer. And the more I spent time with them, the more I realized, these are guys who I talked to one guy, his name's Jason up in Massachusetts. He was doing some specialized air to water systems, had a really good like niche in the industry and was growing. Everything was going well. He had I think 4 techs. And then out of the blue, he told me he was shutting down his business. And I was like, what are you doing? Like he was getting sponsored by, some OEMs and things seemed to be going really well. And he's like, dude, I just can't take it anymore. The paper, he actually said 2 things. He said it was the administrative work and he couldn't find enough guys. And the combination of those 2 things, he's like, I don't want to be my own business owner anymore. And he went and got poached by one of the big companies. And that's great. If you want to do that, like there's a lot of reasons why some guys want to be a, W-2 salaried employee at another company. But I think that, what I'm really just obsess about is like, how do we help more independent owners out there? That's what WorkHero is about. We're focused on helping small HVAC owners with a bunch of their paperwork. We'll maybe talk a little bit about that on this podcast, but really it's about what I'm excited to do is bring in all the learnings that I have, both from business operations and technology more generally. And now we work with, dozens of small contractors across the country, helping them think about how do you set up a workflow with billing or with rebates or with your price book so that you can build the best business.
Yeah. So Furman and I had a discussion prior to getting on here live, and we come from different worlds. I'm technical, tools. He's not. He's more, like he said, financial, business, stuff like that. And my very limited knowledge of business will hopefully add to the conversation a little bit. I tried to learn as much as I can about business when I can. I mean, I've spent time, and this is something to be said. The circles you operate in are really going to help you elevate your game. If you hang out, I mean, you're going to have good friends that probably don't want to be successful and are just happy who they are, but they're your good friend. Fine. You want to hang out with them, fine. But try to operate within circles of people that are constantly elevating their game, because it's going to help you elevate your game as well. For instance, I mean, there's all kinds of networking opportunities, trade shows and all that kind of stuff, even online, following the right people, listening to the right people, getting in touch with them, having conversations, meetings. People reach out to me all the time that are starting their own business. And they say, do you mind? And I feel bad because I can't even respond to them all. And I can't get on meetings with them all. But they're like, hey, do you mind giving me some tips and tell me how to run my business better? And I'm like, this could take hours to give you all this information. So it's a real good opportunity for Furman and I to create content that will help people. And when people reach out, it's not like I'm taking 3 hours to respond to them and giving them this big list of things to do. I can say, hey, listen, here's a link to our podcast. Here's a link to our newsletter subscription. Go sign up, because you're going to get all this stuff in increments and it's all going to help you. Because here's the other thing. You can't learn it all at one time, right? If you think you're going to learn everything in a month, you're not. You have to learn things in increments and understand it before you move on from something. I was talking to some people yesterday in a training course, and I said, the way you know you understand something is if you can explain it to a 5-year-old and they understand it, right? But in order for you to explain it to a 5-year-old, you have to grasp it really, really well. And in order to grasp it really, really well, you have to spend time on it. It has to be repetitive. This is part of coaching in business and sport, whatever it is. You have to be repetitive and you have to spend time, and you can't really leave that subject until you kind of know it and grasp it. When I was learning wiring diagrams, I'd put my finger on every single diagram I came up to and I'd follow it, and I'd look at what I stopped at, if it was like a circle or square or whatever. And then I go to the legend and I go, okay, what's that? And then I try to correlate the two, and then I'd move on. And I did this for months, until I picked up a diagram and I looked at it, and it was like the Matrix. Everything just kind of came alive and I understood it. It just snapped and popped in my head. So, and that doesn't happen without repetition. So you can't learn everything all at once. So maybe speak to that a little bit, is the increments of learning and maybe how you should approach it.
Yeah. We just need wiring diagrams for QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, you bring up a good point, right? And you said it takes time. And I mean, I might flip the question back on you and say, like, when you were first starting your own HVAC business, like, how much time did you have? Right. Like,
not a lot.
Yeah. That's this sort of this kind of cruel irony I see of when you're first getting started. There's a set of things that you really need to be focused on, right? Finding your first customers and making sure that you have a really good financial reporting foundation and everything's flowing to QuickBooks. And then there's a next set of things. But as you grow, the amount of actual overhead, the amount of business pricing decisions and cash flow decisions and hiring decisions you have to make actually increases, I think, more than even just the volume of field work, which means that the irony of growth in this industry is that it actually just really takes away more and more time from the owner, right? I talk to guys who work, I was talking to a guy a few months ago named Billy in Georgia. I think he's in his early 60s and he still works 80-hour weeks every single week. He's like, I'm lucky if I get to, on Sundays, if I get to watch the Falcons play. He's based in Georgia. I'm like, damn, like this is the reality. And so time and how you use that time to, as you said, incrementally learn business topics and upskill your thinking on processes and on finances and other things will allow you to protect the rest of the time that you do have, right? Like, I think we both hope, you get to spend a lot of time coaching your kids soccer. And like, we both hope that some of what we talk about on this will on the series will give owners the ability to implement some changes in their business so that they can actually get that time back.
Yeah.
Because that's this kind of irony.
Yeah. Every business owner wants efficiency. Every single one of them, whether or not they know that, they do want it. Because let's say a business owner works 20 hours a day, or maybe not 20 hours. Let's say they work 16 hours a day, and you remove 5 to 6 hours a day from their workload. They wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They really wouldn't. They'd be like, I'm used to being busy. Like, we have to start implementing these strategies and things when the business owner takes hold of the business, and now they plan forward. Like, I don't want to work 16 hours a day. I don't want to be the old school business owner that needs to have his thumb on everything and is micromanaging and stuff like that. There's something to be said about that. There's a level of trust you have to have in your processes. And if you don't have processes, then sometimes things go awry and you do end up working 16 hours a day. So the process thing is really important. To be honest with you, because I'm only out in the field a couple days a week, I don't really have much. It's only me. I don't have to really implement many processes. So I've never really gone down that road. But for someone that wants to hire an apprentice and maybe another licensed guy, or a couple licensed guy and an apprentice and an office staff, or whoever they're hiring, they got to put processes in place, because they can't always be watching everything everybody does. So that process that's in place will help guide people through certain problems and stuff that exist. I was actually speaking to one lady a couple of years back, and believe it or not, they had a process for taking out the garbage, because one time they took it out, they put it in the wrong spot. Somebody ran over it. It was a mess. And so they actually designed a process of double bagging this far away from the curb in this spot to prevent problems from happening. And those little tiny things, believe it or not, even though it sounds minuscule or nothing to worry about, those little tiny things done many times over are what actually creates efficiency in a business, right? Would you agree with that?
Totally. And one of the big things there is, how do you actually diagnose when you need a process, right? And it's usually when you've spent, inordinate amounts of time on manual tasks, and you're beating your head against the wall because you're doing something repetitively, and there's always opportunity there. One of the other things that we're going to do at least one episode, probably multiple episodes on, is automation in your HVAC business, right?
I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Yeah, got a couple of really cool guests lined up here, and look, like, there's hopefully everyone's at least playing around with the LLMs like ChatGPT or Claude in some basic ways, right? Like, revise a email that's going to go to a customer, or help revamp your website language by just plugging it in. But there's really, to go from that, using AI a little bit like the way you would Google, right? Just like as a assistant, to actually implementing automations in your business that can perform tasks for you, like registering equipment, like invoicing a customer automatically based on technician notes that make their way into your software. There's going to be some really cool stuff already being implemented in businesses that we work with, and in a lot of other businesses. And it takes work, right? Everyone says, I think there's a lot of hype around AI right now, and we think it's going to solve all our problems, but it actually takes real work to fine tune and customize these workflows. So that's going to be another fun topic.
Cool. All right. So some automation stuff we're going to talk about. The first episode you and I discussed, it's going to be you and I. Beyond that, it's going to be guests and stuff like that. And maybe once in a while it'll be you and I. And guys, WorkHero is going to be the official sponsor of this series, right? And you'll learn more about, we're not going to create commercials out of what Furman does, but we will be telling you what Furman does, because I wouldn't be working with him if I didn't genuinely believe that he had something here that was actually valuable to contractors. So we will talk about WorkHero as well as we go, without trying to make it too salesy, and you know what I mean? That's not the way I like to operate. And you will see value in what Furman and his group are doing. I know you will, because I see value in it now. Because if I was a little bit bigger, couple trucks on the road, 2-3 trucks, I'd be looking at stuff that Furman is able to offer as well. But some of the things that we're going to talk about on the first episode, this is kind of a teaser episode, guys. We're going to talk about when it's time to start your own business, because I know everybody has that question. When is it time to start your own business? And there's a lot of factors involved. I've talked about it before a couple of years back, but we'll revisit it because some things may have changed. We're also going to talk about some things. Furman's got some guests and stuff lined up. So maybe talk about some of the ideas you have in the future for this podcast series, because that will let people know the vision we have here going forward.
Yeah, that first episode is going to be cool. It's going to be, really practical stuff, like how much savings do you need in your bank account before you get started? And when you're incorporating your business legally, should you go with an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC? There's different tax implications to this. When you're setting up your Google My Business page, what are some best practices there? So we're going to get really into the weeds. It's almost like your startup, guide, or at least some tips there. And in the next set of episodes, we're going to kind of go through the growth or evolution of an HVAC business. So I think the second episode is really going to be about marketing and finding your first customers. Definitely going to do an episode on software and on process, and how to best use the software that's out there, on the best practices for sort of connecting different softwares together. Yeah, just lots of, as I mentioned, automation is going to be a big one. Hiring, when do you hire your first helper? When do you hire your first office person? If you're working with a family member who already is doing your books, how do you set up a good relationship there?
Yeah. One of the things I would like to tackle too is the structure of your business as far as your employees go, because I threw this idea out, and this could be a really, really interesting one. And I think we could find somebody that's doing this already, where your employees are actually business owners. They actually own a chunk of the business, like a small percentage, but that percentage of the business at the end of the year, if you receive like a dividend or something, or a bonus based on how well that business did, well, wouldn't you work a little bit harder to maintain business growth over a course of time if you know that at the end of the year the financial outcome for you is going to be a positive one and you can grow it? That could be a very interesting topic to tackle too, right?
I love that. Yeah, we really believe in employee ownership at WorkHero, and all of our employees own options in our business. So I think that's a really important thing. So is also, just being a good employer. So we'll talk about health insurance. Like, a lot of owners I talk to worry about how they give their guys health insurance and what are the easiest options there. There's a couple different ways you can do it. So I think that maybe there would be a whole episode on, employee benefits and creating a culture, but that includes both health insurance and employee ownership.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I mean, we have given everybody sort of the gist of what is coming down the line. So please, guys, if I know that you guys are listening now, you're already subscribed to the podcast, but there's more good things to come. And just so you guys know, this business series is on top of the other podcasts that I already do. So Furman and I will be collaborating on the business side of things. And then you'll still get the regular podcasts that I do with other people as well that talk about some other stuff, more technical stuff and all that. So anyway, Furman, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this sort of taking off, expanding, and attracting the people that we want to attract to it, so they can learn from what you know from the business side of things and financial side of things and our guests, and from what I know actually going through starting up my own and the things that I've done and had to plan in order to do that. So it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a great time. I'm just convinced by the end of this, you got to let me come record in your basement with you.
Once I clean it up.
There we go.
You can come down
there
here,
we
no
go.
problem. Cool. All right. Thanks, Furman. Look forward to more of this, guys.
Yeah.